I felt it between my legs the moment his fingers touched my lower back. We were just standing in a crowded room, nothing sexual about it. But the way his hand rested there, firm and warm, made my entire body ache for him. I went home that night and couldn't stop thinking about what it would feel like if he touched me everywhere else. Most women won't admit this, but we remember the men who know how to touch us. Not grab us, not grope us, but touch us in a way that makes our bodies betray us. If you learn this, she'll fantasize about you for months. Before we dive into this, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button because this video is going to reveal things most women will never tell you out loud. Subscribe and turn on notifications because I'm sharing secrets from a woman's perspective that will change how you touch, how you connect, and how you make her feel. And drop a comment below telling me which touch drives you the most crazy. Men, I want to hear your experiences. And women, don't be shy. Let's start a real conversation. Let me be completely honest with you. I'm a woman, and I'm about to tell you exactly what happens inside our bodies and minds when a man touches us the right way. This isn't theory. This isn't guessing. This is the raw truth about female desire that we talk about with our girlfriends, but rarely admit to men. Because the truth is, we want to be touched in ways that make us lose control. We want to feel desired, claimed, and awakened. But most men have no idea how to do this without being creepy, aggressive, or completely clueless. The difference between a touch that makes a woman pull away and a touch that makes her melt into you is about 3 inches and 2 seconds. That's it. The smallest adjustments in where you place your hand and how long you let it linger can be the difference between her feeling nothing and her replaying that moment alone in her bed at midnight. I know this because I've lived it. I felt both kinds of touch, and I can tell you with absolute certainty which one kept me awake thinking about him for weeks. Let me take you back to that moment I mentioned. We were at a friend's party. He was standing next to me, talking to someone else, and the room was packed. People were squeezing past us, and instead of just letting me get jostled by the crowd, he placed his hand on my lower back. Not my shoulder, not my waist, my lower back. Right at that curve where my spine dips, just before my hips begin. His palm was warm, his fingers spread just wide enough that I could feel each one individually. He wasn't gripping me, he wasn't pulling me. He was just there, steady and present, like he was claiming that space on my body without asking permission. Here's what happened inside my body in those 5 seconds. My breath caught, my skin flushed. I felt a pulse of heat travel from where his hand touched me straight down between my legs. I wasn't expecting it. We weren't flirting. We weren't alone. But my body didn't care about any of that. It responded to him like he'd just whispered the dirtiest thing imaginable in my ear. That's the power of touch when it's done right. It bypasses logic. It bypasses your brain. It speaks directly to her nervous system, and her body answers whether she wants it to or not. Now, let me tell you why that particular touch worked. The lower back is one of the most underrated erogenous zones on a woman's body. It's intimate without being obvious. It's protective without being possessive. When you place your hand there, you're close enough to her hips and her ass to create sexual tension, but you're not crossing any lines that make her uncomfortable. It's that perfect balance of respectful and dangerous. Your hand is saying, I know exactly where this could go, but I'm in control enough not to rush it. And here's the neuroscience behind it. The lower back is packed with nerve endings that connect directly to the pelvic region. When you touch a woman there, you're activating the same neural pathways that fire during arousal. Her brain registers your touch as both protective and sexual simultaneously. That combination is intoxicating. It makes her feel safe and desired at the same time, which is the exact emotional cocktail that turns casual attraction into raw physical need. But let's talk about the bigger picture here. Most men think touch is about where you put your hands. It's not. It's about how you put them there. I've been touched on the lower back by men who made my skin crawl, and I've been touched there by men who made me wet on the spot. The difference wasn't the location, it was the energy behind it. When a man touches a woman with hesitation, with uncertainty, with that nervous energy that screams, "I hope this is okay," it kills everything. Because hesitation reads as weakness. And weakness, no matter how nice it is, does not create desire. The man who touched me that night didn't ask. He didn't hover. He didn't second-guess himself. He simply placed his hand where he wanted it, held it there with calm confidence, and went back to his conversation like it was the most natural thing in the world. That certainty, that unspoken assurance that he had every right to touch me, was what made it so powerful. He wasn't hoping I'd be okay with it. He knew I would be, and my body proved him right. Let me give you another example, one that happened months later with the same man. We were walking down a busy street, and instead of walking beside me like most men do, he moved slightly behind me. I didn't think anything of it until I felt his hand again, this time resting on the curve of my hip as he guided me through the crowd. His thumb was on my hip bone, his fingers spread across the small of my back, and every step I took, I could feel the pressure of his hand adjusting with my movement. It was like he was steering me, not controlling me, but leading me with this quiet, physical dominance that made me hyper-aware of every inch of my body. I remember thinking, if he can make me feel like this just by guiding me through a crowd, what would it feel like if we were alone? That's the kind of thought you want living in her head. Because once she starts imagining what your touch would feel like in private, you've already won. You're no longer just a guy she knows. You're the guy she fantasizes about. Now let's get specific. If you want to create this kind of response, you need to understand the anatomy of female arousal through touch. There are 5 zones on a woman's body that, when touched correctly, bypass her logical mind and speak directly to her primal brain. I'm going to walk you through each one, explain why it works, and tell you exactly how to use it without looking like you're trying too hard. The first zone is the one I already mentioned, the lower back. This is your foundation. It's where you establish physical presence without being overtly sexual. The key is placement and pressure. Your hand should rest just above her tailbone, fingers spread naturally, palm flat and warm. The pressure should be firm enough that she feels claimed, but gentle enough that she doesn't feel trapped. Hold it there for longer than feels casual. 3 seconds minimum. Let her body adjust to your touch. Let her nervous system register that you're not in a hurry, that you're comfortable being this close to her. The second zone is her neck, but not the way most men think. Don't grab her neck, don't wrap your hand around her throat unless she explicitly asks for that. What you want to do is much more subtle and infinitely more effective. When you're standing close to her, talking, laughing, whatever, let your fingers graze the side of her neck just below her ear. It should look almost accidental, like you're tucking her hair back or adjusting her necklace. But make sure your fingertips make contact with her skin. That area is incredibly sensitive, and the lightest touch there sends shivers down a woman's spine. I remember a man doing this to me once during a conversation. We were talking about something completely mundane, work or weather. I don't even remember. But he reached over, brushed a strand of hair away from my face, and let his fingers trail down the side of my neck for half a second. I lost my train of thought completely. My entire body lit up. I had to pause mid-sentence because I couldn't focus on anything except the ghost of his touch still tingling on my skin. That's the power of the neck. It's vulnerable, it's intimate, and when a man touches you there with confidence, it feels like a promise of things to come. The third zone, and this one is critically important, is her wrist. Most men ignore the wrist completely, and that's a massive mistake. The wrist is one of the most sensitive parts of a woman's body. The skin there is thin, the pulse is visible, and touching it creates an instant sense of intimacy. Here's how you do it. When you're sitting across from her at a table, reach over and gently take her hand. Not to hold it, but to examine it. Look at her rings, comment on her nails, whatever. But while you're doing that, let your thumb rest on the inside of her wrist, right over her pulse point. Press gently, not hard, just enough that she can feel you feeling her heartbeat. This does something profound to a woman's nervous system. When you touch her pulse, you're literally holding her lifeline in your hand. It creates a subconscious sense of vulnerability and trust. She feels exposed, but in the best possible way. And if her heart rate increases while you're touching her, which it almost certainly will, you'll feel it. And she'll know you feel it. That shared awareness of her arousal is incredibly erotic, even though nothing overtly sexual is happening. The fourth zone is her waist, but again, not the way you think. Don't just grab her waist like you're posing for a photo. What you want to do is slide your hand around her waist from behind when she's not expecting it. Maybe she's looking at something, talking to someone, standing in line. Come up behind her, place your hand on her waist, and pull her back slightly so her body is against yours. Not aggressively, just enough that she feels the solid presence of your chest against her back. This triggers something primal in women. We're wired to respond to a man's physical presence behind us. It taps into evolutionary psychology, the idea of being protected, claimed, owned in a consensual way. When a man pulls me back into him like that, my brain short circuits. Suddenly, I'm not thinking about whatever I was doing. I'm thinking about how strong he feels, how good he smells, how easy it would be for him to slide his hand lower or higher, and how much I want him to. The fifth and final zone is her inner thigh, but this one requires the most calibration. You can't just reach for her inner thigh out of nowhere. That's not seductive, that's assault. But if you're sitting next to her, knees touching, and the energy between you is already charged, a light touch to her inner thigh can be the thing that pushes her over the edge. Rest your hand on her knee first. Let it sit there. Let her get used to it. Then slowly let your fingers drift up toward her inner thigh. Not all the way, just a few inches, just enough that she feels the heat of your hand moving closer to where she really wants it. What this does is create anticipation. Her entire body will be focused on your hand, wondering how far you'll go, hoping you'll go further, and simultaneously terrified and excited that you might. That tension, that electric anticipation, is more powerful than actually touching her between her legs. Because the buildup, the almost, the not quite yet, that's what she'll replay in her mind later when she's alone. Now here's the thing that ties all of this together. None of these touches work if you're doing them mechanically. You can't just follow a checklist and expect her to melt. The real power comes from your energy, your confidence, your complete lack of doubt. When you touch a woman, you have to do it like you already know she wants it. Not in an arrogant way, but in a calm, assured way. You're not asking for permission with your touch. You're stating your intention. I can always tell the difference between a man who's confident and a man who's pretending. The confident man touches me and then forgets about it. He doesn't stare at me waiting for a reaction. He doesn't fidget or pull away too quickly. He just touches me, holds it for a moment, and then goes back to whatever he was doing. That nonchalance is what makes it so devastating. It tells me that touching me is natural for him, that he's not nervous about my response because he already knows what it will be. Let me tell you what happens after a man touches me like this. I go home and I can't stop thinking about it. I replay the moment over and over. I feel the ghost of his hand on my lower back, on my neck, on my wrist. I imagine what it would feel like if he touched me everywhere else. I think about how his hands would feel on my bare skin, how his fingers would feel inside me, how his grip would feel on my hips while he's behind me. All of this from a single, fully clothed touch in public. That's the level of power you have access to if you learn how to touch a woman correctly. You don't need to be the best-looking guy in the room. You don't need to have the most money or the best job. You just need to understand that a woman's body is a map, and most men never learn how to read it. But when you do, when you touch her in a way that makes her body respond before her brain can catch up, you become unforgettable. And here's the final secret, the one that most men never figure out. The most powerful touch isn't the one that lasts the longest. It's the one that's over too soon. When you touch her lower back and then pull your hand away before she's ready, you leave her wanting more. When you graze her neck and then step back, you create a void that her body wants to fill. Scarcity creates value. Always leave her wanting just a little bit more than you gave her. So let me ask you directly. Are you touching women with intention or with hesitation? Are you confident enough to place your hand where you want it and leave it there? Or are you pulling away the second you feel any resistance? Because the difference between those two approaches is the difference between being the guy she forgets and the guy she fantasizes about for months. This is what I need you to understand. Women are not complicated. Our bodies are not mysterious. We respond to touch the same way men respond to visual stimulation. When you touch us in a way that activates our nervous system, we can't help but feel desire. It's biology. It's neuroscience. It's the way we're wired. The only question is whether you're willing to learn the language of touch and use it with the confidence of a man who knows exactly what he's doing. Now, before you go, I need you to do 3 things. First, smash that like button if this opened your eyes to something you didn't know before. Second, subscribe and hit the notification bell because I'm going to keep pulling back the curtain on female psychology and giving you the unfiltered truth about what makes women desire men. And third, drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever used touch to create attraction? What happened? Or if you're a woman watching this, tell the men what kind of touch drives you wild. Let's create a space where we can talk about this honestly without judgment. Remember, the man who masters touch doesn't need to say much. His hands do all the talking. And trust me, women are listening.